I mean, I don't know if you've ever had the experience, I don't want to talk bad of any of their synagogues, but you go to another place on a Shabbos morning, you say, something's missing here, right? And then you go to another place and you say, they have it too. It's not very easy to define, but you know when you walk into the presence of a place or a person for whom the realm of the soul is a primary concern. So I began thinking of the ways that I am touched by this, and I this morning I just landed on one thing that I'll share with you, and I'll take any questions or comments. And that is in the very beginning of the Torah, where it says that the human being, the Adam, is created B'Tselem Elohim, in the image of the divine. And it's a beautiful thought that leads to very noble understandings of justice. I mean, the human being created in the image of the divine. But as most of you know, the word tselem, which is used for image, the root of the word tselem is tsel, which means a shadow. And one just has to have a little bit of poetic consciousness to suddenly realize that this noble idea of God's image actually communicates something much more disturbing. Because when you see a shadow on the wall, okay, the shadow tells you it's an image of something that's not there. Okay? So the shadow outlines the shape of something that's somewhere else. So try to think of us not as the image of God. Think for a moment of the disturbing idea that we're the shadow of God. Another way of saying it, that somehow the shadow self of the divine is the human being. Kabbalistically, that the divine has, as it were, extracted the divine shadow self into humanity, and we are the conscious part of the divine working through the divine shadow self. That of the many reasons why a human being is here is to work through the divine shadow. That's our holy work. And one thing that the divine shadow, you might say, the destructive aspect of it is to make us not do the work, not to suffer. The will not to suffer well is probably one of the most destructive things for the spiritual path. Many people choose to suffer, but they suffer in the most destructive ways. They obsess, they don't grow deep. So the willingness to suffer through, when I think about God's shadow, the shadow self of the divine, suddenly your suffering is not because something's, you've heard me say this many times, but it's a revelation to me every time I arrive there. There's nothing wrong with you because you're grieving, you're angry, you're depressed, you're resentful. There's nothing wrong with you. You've discovered the aspect of the shadow of the divine that has been placed within you. And once you discover that, then your question is, am I going to suffer through this and work through this and understand the divine concern coming through it, or am I going to ignore it, displace, symptomize, and avoid the noble suffering of transformation? So I just take that one little phrase, just this, image of God, shadow of God. And the extraordinary richness of the metaphor, of course, is in our Torah. And then I go sentence by sentence by sentence in our Torah, and I find one striking image after another that helps me map out my soul and the dimensions of this work. So when this person says, why religion? Say, A, I think we need community. And B, we have a holy text that both expresses this work and guides us in this work. And we have a community that is attached to the text and attached to the way that the text guides us in transformation and find our way to God's presence. Then we have a deeper understanding of what covenant is, what a holy community is, and what it is we gather here to do on a Shabbos. So the larger context of all this, whenever I'm doing Musar work, working through a problem, working through a person, that's necessary. But you might say it's a foundation of a pyramid that ascends into the divine, or a pyramid that ascends into the depths of our souls. You have to do that work, but the work, that's one step, a necessary, constant step in the arriving at true depth. Okay. Any thoughts, questions, or comments about